Always enlightening. Learn something new every day.
We do that for you, man. We do that for the people.
Kenny, thank you.
I do that for the people. It's all me.
Kenny's all about the culture. Good to know. Please be careful if you are driving around and listening to us today. It looks slick out there. I can only imagine out on some of the main roads or even the highways. I'm sure the crews are working as best they can, but Rico, this is an ice storm.
Yeah, you know what? This is one of those where the weatherman actually got it right.
Well, and our boss is like doomsday over here. He's like, we might lose power tonight, and he's walking me through energy grids. Like, okay.
Yeah, and you
trying
know
to
what?
Scare us.
Kenny, you know the other day when I told you guys about Napoleon, you learned something? I learned something today. I now know that he truly is Corporate Costa. Do you know who his next door neighbor is? James Costa lives right next door to Jimmy Powers, the boss.
We are not next door neighbors.
Morning, Jimmy. Morning, Jimmy.
I'm not grabbing his paper, walking his dog. We are not neighbors.
Was he the guy you gave the cookies to? Is this full
Yes.
Circle.
Full circle.
Loves his lawn. James W. Powers.
Walks his dog.
Stop.
They can talk to each other over the fence in the backyard. Yeah. Full circle. I'm like, you truly are Corporate Costa. Wow. Impressive.
Thank you, Rico. All right, you brought this up. Thank you. Thank you, Rico. Thank you, Roberto. You brought up pre-show that there is a free agent target that you are interested in for the Lions. And the backstory on this is Daniel Jones is likely to be franchise tagged in New York, which means Saquon Barkley's going to be a free agent.
You've been saying all along, you want a difference maker on this team. Lions fans have been saying they want a difference maker. You're looking at going after and getting a quarterback. And here's what I will say. You go get a quarterback, you don't know. Remember, the current quarterback that you have was once the number one pick of the draft. So you don't know what you're getting. You want to get a difference maker behind this offensive line? Yeah, there are two guys. I'm looking at Saquon Barkley. I'm also looking at Josh Jacobs from the Raiders. You put them behind this line with everything that you have, and I think you'll have something because there's only about 5 running backs. Kind of like the quarterbacks we did where we're like, okay, there's probably 4 quarterbacks that are difference-making quarterbacks. Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, Hurts. Anything other than that, you got a good piece, but you don't have that guy. I think the same holds true with running backs. And normally I'm one that says, you know what? You don't pay running backs, they're a dime a dozen, whatever. But occasionally when you have an opportunity to go and get that guy, I don't see why not, especially because you built this team with that offensive line. Imagine what Saquon Barkley could do behind the Lions line. Not only he's an every down back, so you don't really have to do this whole back by committee thing. He's your guy. And the example that I'll use, you look at what the Niners. The Niners were Mr. Back by committee and finally said, you know what? I don't care. F the picks. Go get Christian McCaffrey. He's one of the best backs out there. There's a handful of them. I look at Derrick Henry. You look at McCaffrey, maybe Dalvin Cook. Saquon is one of these guys. Jacobs, one of these guys that if you get them on your team, you can go and get a Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey maybe gets thrown at 7-8 times. You get Saquon's touching the ball at least 20 to 25 times a game. He is going to help you win. He can catch it out the backfield. Is he going to cost you money? Yes, he's going to cost you money. But are you trying to win something or are you trying to bargain budget your way to winning a playoff game? The opportunity is there. I don't think the Giants can take them both. So, yeah, looking at what the Lions have built, it is one of those that it's going to come across as, well, that's ridiculous. I wouldn't pay a running back. But once again, if you want a difference maker, if you want a face of a team that's not the head coach, it's Saquon.
Yeah, but this isn't 1985 or 1995. The face of your team can't be a running back. It can't be. Like, I'm hoping people can call in and talk some sense into you because There's no way I'm paying Saquon Barkley, and there's no way I'm paying Josh Jacobs. Not doing it.
Why not?
Because you're asking for them to break down. That's what happens.
I didn't say you had to sign them for the next 10 years.
Rico, it's next year I'm worried about. Saquon Barkley touched it 350 times this year. Josh Jacobs was like 400 and ended up like 380 touches for the season. That's a workload where you're begging for things to go wrong. And I went and looked it up. I wanted some context. The last 3 seasons, running backs that got at least 350 carries, it is either you will break down or you will lose a step.
Right.
Christian McCaffrey, 2019, he touched it 400 times, missed 13 games the next year, 10 the year after that. Same year, Zeke Elliott, bunch of carries in 2019. Very next year, missed a couple games, lost a full half yard per carry, hasn't been the same since. You had Dalvin Cook and Derrick Henry both missed significant time after the 2020 seasons where they were feature backs. 2021, it was Jonathan Taylor who missed 6 games this last year. And then the only one that didn't get hurt was Najee Harris. But, David, you would tell me he wasn't as effective after the workload he had last year.
Production was not the same.
So I don't want to pay a running back coming off a 350-touch workload season and expect him to come in and be the bell cow. Rico, if I have a great O-line, you should be able to run behind it. It should be plug and play. The idea that you have limited resources in a salary cap sport and I'm going to pay anything of consequence, draft pick, free agent, or otherwise, when I can go scoop up any old running back off the scrap
that's just
heap.
it. Why do you need to keep piecemealing it when you can go out and get the guy? And you know what? Okay, fine. You can have another back there to help spell him, but there's only a handful of difference makers. And you've been preaching. Lions need a difference maker. They need a difference maker. Here's what's
How about
staring
on defense
right at you.
or at quarterback or a position that's like actually deciding games in the NFL today?
Right, because touching the ball 25 times a game does not count for anything.
Rico, this stat went around, this chart went around, leading rusher in the Super Bowl since 09. The leading rusher in the Super Bowl since 09 has never made more than $2.5 million a season. And it's guys who aren't any good. It's Pacheco and Damian Williams and Sony Michel and LeGarrette Blount.
Cookies, you're better than this because you can use stats for anything because I can say, you know what? Hey, nobody's ever won a Super Bowl who was on their second year on the second contract until this year when Mahomes did it. So just to say, because it happened all at other times, it can't happen now.
But hold on. It's different at quarterback than running back. If this was 1995 when teams were built around one standalone running back, then maybe we are having a conversation about bringing in a go-to difference maker at the tailback. But you don't do that in 2023.
Why not? Because everybody else doesn't do it?
Because it's the least valuable position in football.
Which is why it's not going to...
So you want to pay the premium at it. Why?
Because you're going to go and get one of the best players who can do this for you. You have a window of right now. So go get the guy that can help get you from almost making the playoffs to making you a contender. Your window is about to close sooner than you think.
And we just disagree about it. I think the window is just starting, and I don't want to do something stupid at the beginning of it.
No, your window is already started. It's not just starting. It's already happened. It's open. And once it's open, it starts to close. It's there. You almost made it. Go get that guy that can help get you over the top.
Please talk sense into Rico because Saquon Barkley doesn't make sense for this franchise.
Now, here's the funny thing, David. Next year, he'll come back and say something very similar, kind of like what he said last year when he tried to talk sense in me and getting a Georgia defensive lineman, and now this year he wants one.
No, you're just proving the point. You would not want Jordan Davis in the top 5 last year. You wouldn't want to use a big pick on a run stopper only.
I said
And
that.
you shouldn't use a big draft pick on a running back only.
Okay, because you're giving me, because that's what the NFL does, and nobody does that. I don't give a damn what everybody else does. You want to win, think for yourself. Be yourself, and maybe you come up with something. If you try to be like every other team, then you're just like every other team. But if you stand out, those are the ones that all of a sudden everybody starts chasing.
No, what this would be like is, you remember when the Pistons attempted to build around Andre Drummond? It's like, are you paying attention to the league? This isn't about back to the basket and down low and working the hook shot. Like, that's what it would be. To pay Saquon Barkley would be like, hey, we want to go Twin Towers. It's not the game anymore.
That is a false equivalent because this Lions team is built to run the ball.
With anybody. With David at running back.
So why not go get one of the best running backs
Because I'm not
and
getting-
do it well.
Because if I can do it for a fraction of the
cheap.
cost. Yeah, exactly.
And you
If
know
I
what
can
you get
if
when
I
you
can
do
get-
things on the cheap? A cheap team.
No, hold on. Jamal Williams is a classic on the cheap running back. 1,000 yards last year, 1,000,000 touchdowns, plug and play. And I'm
Or
not
you
even.
go get one of the best running backs.
I get 1,000 no
and
matter
you do it
what.
Right. You do it. You get a guy that puts fear in people's heart. Like, oh my God, we got to scheme no matter where he's at. We got to know where he's at.
The Dallas Cowboys proved this point about 7-8 years ago when they had 3 elite first-round offensive linemen. Centers, tackles, guards, right? They were elite offensive line. 3 years, 3 different 1,000-yard backs. Did not matter who the running back was.
So where do you want to spend your money?
On defense?
On Jalen Ramsey.
I would rather have Ramsey than Barkley.
And Ramsey's going to do what for you?
He's going to play cornerback at a high level.
So he'll get targeted. He's going to cover all the wide receivers?
He's going to cover one really well.
Okay.
In a passing league.
And what happens to the other 3 receivers?
You're going to have safeties and
Exactly.
corners.
So nothing really.
That have
is gonna
hold on,
happen.
hold on. If you can truly go one-on-one and evaporate a receiver, there's value in that because now you get to play with extra defenders on fewer receivers.
You want to know how you can really help your defense?
What?
Control the ball on offense.
I'm already doing that.
You
This team's already converting all the fourth
You
downs
do
and all the
realize
short
that-
yardage situations.
You do realize that just because something works, it can be improved upon. Just because it works doesn't mean you quit doing it. You can still always try to get better.
Rico, they are entering into a period where they're going to be very competitive. What I don't want to do is set aside a big chunk of money on a position that's less valuable than it's ever been for a team that does not need someone at that position. Where upside at running back only gets you so far. Upside at quarterback will get you a lot further. Upside at defensive line or linebacker or corner or safety will get you a lot further. A difference maker at those positions changes your trajectory more than a running back does. It just does. There's no reason to pay Jacobs or Barkley a premium coming off a 350-touch season for a team that's running the ball fine.
I simply say you want to improve your defense, you get your offense better. You go and get that guy. The Niners didn't hesitate. Matter of fact, they outbid your Rams who wanted to get him for Stafford. The Rams were willing to give up everything to go get Christian McCaffrey. Why? He was a difference. Was he injured? Yeah, he was injured.
Mm-hmm.
Don't care because when he's on the field, he's the best player on the field. You would have that.
Running backs exist to get injured.
Every NFL player exists to get injured.
More than any other position, they exist to get injured. You pay them to watch their legs explode. That's what running backs are. And it's why you take Pacheco in the 7th round and he leads the Super Bowl rushing. Just saying.
You just described everybody in the NFL.
All right, 248-539-9797. We'll get to people on this. Rico says, you want your game changer? I've got your game changer. Come on, it can't be Saquon Barkley. It can't be Josh Jacobs. It's 97-1.